What's special about this first major of the year on the PGA Tour, the Masters, this tournament that everybody talks about?
Well, I think it's just one of the reasons is that you're playing the same golf course year after year after year. All the other major championships, you rotate around and select few golf courses. But Augusta National is unique in its own right. There's no billboards. There's no tented village. It's just pure golf. It's a quintessential what every professional golfer wants to play is. When you walk towards that first tee, you just see the pureness of Mother Nature and how great the golf course is. It's changed over time, the golf course. But, in the essence of the golf course is still there. And quite honestly, the culture of the club is unique in its own fashion. And there's a lot of mystique around it. There's a lot of, the brand, the Masters brand is a very, very powerful brand in its own right. So it's a tournament every professional wants to play in. And it's a tournament, if you do get in it, you're hoping to be the one that put the green jacket on at some time in your career.
What are the unique challenges of this particular course, Augusta National?
Well, the unique part about it is you never have a flat lie except on the tee. That's the only time you'll ever feel like you've got your 2 feet are sitting the same and the ball sitting level with your 2 feet. Three-dimensional television, when it comes into play, will really electrify the viewers for seeing what Augusta National and the golf course and the topography of what the players have to put up with. It's always odd angle shots. It's very, very strange. It's extremely unique. Reverse cambers on a couple of shots where you've got an uphill line. You've got to hit the ball to the left. It's just so unique that way. It's just crazy. And it's very, like I said, and it's a golf course that I think suits a left-hander more than a right-hander.
This is the first Masters without Arnold Palmer, who passed away last fall. He was a fixture there for so long, not just from the days that he played, but also as an ambassador and one of golf's greats who would start things off on Thursday on the first tee. Greg, what did Arnold Palmer mean to you personally?
Well, I knew Arnold since I first moved to the United States. I moved onto one of his developments in Orlando called Bay Hill. I spent a lot of time with Arnold in the locker room, spent a lot of time with practice rounds, and just a lot of time just talking to the man. And he was just a giving person, a giving soul who loved life. Augusta National will miss him. The golf world has missed him already and will continue to miss him for years and years to come, because every player today who fills up their pocket with the cash from the game of golf should thank Arnold Palmer, because he brought commercialization to the game. He brought corporate America or the corporate world to the game of golf. And it was just Arnold. It wasn't anybody else. It was Arnold Palmer who did that for us.
It definitely will not be the same without him on Thursday. We're spending a few minutes with Greg Norman, former world number 1, 2-time major champ, a golf Hall of Famer. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. I got to ask you about this quirky rule in golf that has come to our attention yet again because of Lexi Thompson and the ANA, the LPGA first major of the year that ended over the weekend. But it happened in the Masters, too, a couple of years ago with Tiger Woods, where someone who was watching the tournament called in, alerted the governing body of golf about a possible rules violation that ended up with strokes being deducted from both Tiger and from Lexi Thompson. What's your reaction to that? People being able to sit on their couch and watch, call up and say, hey, they messed up.
Well, I'm not a big fan of it, to tell you the truth. I mean, look, we're scrutinized on the game of golf because there's TV cameras everywhere, and from what I'm hearing, every golf shot is recorded somewhere in some van. But I don't like it where the fans call in. I like the fans' support of the game. There's no question about it. But in a situation like this, where it has such a dramatic effect on it, it's tough for me to be in favor of it.
So, Greg, a couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to hear you speak at the University of Miami, the Sports Industry Conference, and you talked about your path into golf, and you actually said your first ever round was a 108. What made you decide that you wanted to be a pro golfer?
Well, I love the individual challenge of it. I did a lot of team sports as a kid growing up, typical Australian stuff, cricket, rugby, Australian rules, and I never did an individual sport. I never played tennis. So when I got my hands on a golf club, I thought, wow, this is such a challenging, not only physically but mentally. So the more I improved, the better shots I started to hit, the more better shots I wanted to hit. So to me, it was pushing myself every time I went out there, and the more I put into it, the more I got out of it. So it was very, very rewarding for my personality.
So when did your dad finally acknowledge that, yes, you had the hang of this game of golf and it was actually going to work for you?
I think he realized that in about the mid '80s when I won the British Open. I got the number one in the world. It's pretty hard for him to say, "Well, I don't think you're going to make it."
That's a great story. It's such a unique journey to get to the top of the golf world. Also in Miami, I heard you talk about your shark brand for which you are known, and I was surprised to hear you say that it wasn't your idea. So how did that all get started?
Well, that's very true. It actually started this tournament back in 1981. It was the first time I got an invitation to go and play Augusta National. And after two rounds of the golf tournament on Friday evening, I was leading the Masters. And quite honestly, nobody in America really knew who I was. I'd been playing in Asia and Australia and through Europe and doing my own thing back then. And social media wasn't around then, and the media coverage on a global front wasn't the way it is today. So they asked me to go to the media room, and he's a long, blonde-headed guy from Australia, had a weird accent, and hit the ball hard and long. And they said, what did you do growing up in Australia? Well, I grew up on the Great Barrier Reef. I did a lot of diving. I've actually dived with great white sharks when I was a kid, tiger sharks, bull sharks, and next minute you know, because of my blonde hair, the Atlanta Constitution said on Saturday morning, headline was Great White Shark leads U.S. Masters, and there it stuck.
Yes, certainly did stick. Greg Norman, known as the Great White Shark, former world number one. He's with us here after hours on CBS Sports Radio. So you mentioned social media. Wasn't obviously prominent when you played on the PGA Tour, but it goes hand in hand with today's sports and today's athletes. How do you like it?
I love it. I wish I had it in my career. I wish I had it in the mid-'80s to mid-'90s because quite honestly, you tell the truth about yourself. You're giving your people a snapshot of you. And if anybody writes a contradictory article about you because they don't know you as a person or the human being that you are, they just make an assumption or a judgment call. You can jump on social media and you can actually put the facts straight and right. And it's no different from the president of the United States, like Donald Trump, all the way down to individuals. We all have our own thoughts and feelings and opinions, and I think social media is an excellent way to do it if you use it the right way. And I would have loved to have had my Instagram account and my Twitter account when I was number one player in the world.
That's interesting. Not something that you hear from a lot of athletes, but he loves social media. And it's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio, cbssportsradio.com. Greg, what about business challenges you? What appeals to you? Because you've got not just a clothing line, but also a bunch of other business ventures.
Yeah, look, the challenge is fun today, to be honest with you. When I first started my business in 1992, 93, I decided that a management company that I was with at the time, you were a pass-through entity. You only had a certain amount of time that you're going to be at the top of the game, and therefore you only had a certain amount of life cycle and how much of the endorsement fees that you could actually rake in. So, and I also knew a management company is never going to build equity in anybody else's brand. They're going to be protecting themselves, and there's always going to be another Greg Norman or another Tiger Woods or another Jack Nicklaus or another Arnold Palmer. Like I said, we're pass-through entities. So I decided to go off on my own. I had my brand, the Shark logo. I had a good moniker. I could put bums on the seats by people who love to watch me play golf on a global basis. So I just made this decision to go out there and start my company. At that time, it was Great White Shark Enterprises. And everything I did in the early stages was all vertically integrated with the game of golf. Different story now. My brand has changed. I've gone from the Great White Shark Enterprises to the Greg Norman Company, purely because of now I'm more B2B and B2C in my business. Before I was more of a sports entrepreneurial business. I was in the sports management side of business. So I could understand that. Now I had to shift over here. So right now where I am in life, I can see long-term opportunities for my company, for my brand, and building it out, out a couple of 100 years. I truly believe that.
Well, I'm glad you said that because in Miami, I was taken aback when you mentioned a company meeting and a 200-year plan. Unless you have discovered the ultimate fountain of youth, none of us is going to be on this planet for another 200 years. So what exactly is a 200-year business plan?
Well, 200-year plan is really developing the legacy. Just because somebody has never said it before doesn't mean to say you're stupid. Everybody looks at me with their perplexed look saying, wow, 200 years, how do you make this work? Well, it can only work if the foundation is established today. And my foundation after 30 years of being in the business is very, very strong. I have a really good solid logo. I have a really good foundation of portfolio of businesses that sit underneath my umbrella of my company. So now that gives me the opportunity to look long term. How do you build this out? How do you keep this momentum going? Where do we take the logo? How do we do it that way? Do we wholly own? Do we do joint ventures? Do we do licensing? So just in the licensing division, I decided to partner up with one of the best companies in the world at licensing, which was ABG, Authentic Brands Group, out of New York. So now I've given them the reins to go build that division. So I've handed off. I've recognized that, when you want to build a business, you need a good partnership with somebody. So I realized that. And so I got an agreement with them, which is basically a forever contract, Amy. So when you think, I thought 200 years 3 years ago, and yet here I am in the last month, I've signed an agreement that's a forever agreement. So I've exceeded my own 200-year legacy plan.
Well, now you need a forever plan. So with everything that's on your business plate, Greg, how much do you actually get out and play golf now?
I don't play that much anymore, Amy. I played with my son in the member guest tournament down here in Florida about a couple of weeks ago. Really had a lot of fun with him. We played 3 straight days. And I enjoy doing those things more now because there's no pressure. I can get out there and I can shoot 80 or I can shoot 72. And I like it when my son can get out there and beat me too. So it's a whole new atmosphere and a different approach that I take towards playing. So last year I played 5 rounds of golf, and this year I'll probably play a few more rounds than that.
That sounds about like me. Greg, it's so good to have a couple of minutes with you here on the radio show. Thank you for your humor and for your stories. It was so good to cross paths with you in Miami. People can follow you on Twitter at Shark Greg Norman. And now going into the Masters, this makes it even more exciting. So thanks again for the time on the show.
You got it. Thanks very much, Amy, and good luck with the show.